Welcome everyone to California Avalanche Workshop 2021. I'm David Reichel with the Sierra Avalanche Center here with Nick Meyers of Mount Shasta Avalanche Center. Welcome, Nick. Good to see you.
All right. Hey, David.
What's that behind you? What's that behind you?
Big old mountain. That's Mount Shasta. That was Monday. We can't see the mountain today, but on Sunday night we got a little bit of snow, and there it is. We got a little sneak peek through the clouds in the afternoon on Monday.
Looking good. I hope it looks even whiter very shortly, which I think it will with the incoming storms.
Yeah, so there's a good little storm coming through.
Yeah. Do you want to quickly, like we were just talking about this offline, but like what's the rough forecast for this storm for precip and whatnot?
Yeah, rough forecast for this storm that started pretty much beginning of the week. Just looking last night, the forecaster showing upwards of about 6-ish inches of water through Sunday for Mount Shasta City. Pretty good southwest flow with this storm. Upwards of our snow levels are kind of fluctuating in between probably 5,000 and 10,000 feet. So I would expect a pretty good dollop of snow up on the mountain by the close of Sunday, and get out your little cross-country ski, your pinner skis, and cruise up the road or something like that. I think would be totally feasible. The gate at Bunny Flats closing on Thursday.
A good dollop of snow. That's the technical hard snow science forecast there.
Yeah, we stick with nothing with the technical terms only.
Yeah. So I mean, this incoming storm is looks to be a pretty classic atmospheric river event, which are they're critical for delivering our precip and our snow and whatnot. But last season, we basically didn't really get any of those. At least I don't think up on Shasta, or at least not like we're supposed to. And thus the mountain last season like hardly looked like it does right now, right? Like it was a pretty rough winter snow coverage wise. How did last winter kind of rate for your experience on the mountain?
Yeah, last winter was a rough one, despite, we finished about, we were about 50% of normal at the end of the season for precipitation, and plagued by a lot of wind. We had we'd get a storm and the mountain would turn white, and then a couple of days later, we'd be back to kind of salt and pepper appearance up on the hill. A lot of northwesterly wind, and it just stripped the mountain time after time throughout the winter. Down below tree line, where the trees and topography worked a little better to keep the snow around, the snow coverage was decent, and so there were some good days. But as far as on the mountain, the good old Shasta plaster that we typically get, we didn't get a lot of wet storms. We didn't get much rain on snow, and as much as that kind of stinks for skiing, it really helps that stuff stick to the mountain, especially above tree line. So the spring ski season was virtually none. We kind of went from winter to summer. There was almost no spring ski season. Climbing season was, we can talk more about that in a bit, but it was a funky winter. Avalanche wise, I could probably count the avalanches on my fingers and toes. We didn't have very many. So it was interesting. We tried to make lemonade out of lemons though, and had some good days here and there, but it was kind of dismal.
Yeah, I was up on Shasta, I think once in January and once in February, or for a trip in January and a trip in February. And on one of those trips, like, I got lucky and timed it with the storm and had some fun, at tree and below tree line skiing. That was great. It was, powder, but it was definitely bony. You had to be a little on your toes. And then, on one of those days we poked up a little bit higher, and it was impressive to me how thin it was. There was like, it appeared to me as though that foot of snow or whatever it was that we were skiing had fallen on less snow, above trees than there had been existing before the storm below trees.
Yeah. And I don't know, it seems like maybe the storms were a little bit colder in general, and that contributed to just the lack of the snow sticking on the hill. So as much as the Shasta plaster is kind of oh man, it helps.
Yeah. As you said, it transitioned from winter to summer pretty quickly with not much of spring season. That was also my experience when I went up in the spring for, mountain climbing season, and it looked like August or, September already.
Yeah. Lake Helen popped out this year. We saw the lake is not much of a lake, and then it actually completely dried up this year, which hasn't happened in a while.
So I'd like to, before we maybe leave last winter entirely, I'd like to talk for a moment about the fatality that happened in Northern California, and it was just outside of the Shasta Avalanche Center forecast area, but I know you investigated it, and I think it's it's hard to talk about these things, but it's really valuable for the community and to, analyze these as case studies. So it was February 3rd, just near Etna Summit. And can you kind of explain for those of us who aren't super familiar with where that is geographically relative to Shasta?
Yeah, it's kind of northwestish from here, probably about 50 or 60 miles as the crow flies. As you said, it's outside of our forecast area, but definitely adjacent and relevant. And the snowpack there is very similar to our area. It's a pass. It's a pretty obscure little pass. They do plow it in the winter. Doesn't get a ton of traffic, but from the little town of Etna, you cruise up onto the pass, and you can park at the top. And from there, there's some skiing. And I have not skied a bunch in that area, so I was relatively new to kind of seeing some of that terrain and driven through there, especially in the summertime before. But it doesn't get a lot of traffic. A lot of folks from Ashland and a few from Shasta will go visit it. It's a cool zone.
Yeah, just looking, I also have not skied there, but looking at it on topographic maps and everything, I mean, it's not enormous runs, but, some steeper stuff and, easy access into some areas. I mean, I can see if you're living near there, it would totally make sense to ski it.
Yeah, exactly. You hit the nail on the head. It kind of mini golf style, but with some real consequence. There's some really steep, complex terrain, small scale, but you could get yourself into some trouble pretty easily there just due to these, steep little rollovers and small cliffs here and there. And yeah, definitely requires some avalanche knowledge to be working around in there.
And so the accident itself was two individuals, I believe a skier and a snowboarder, slipboarder, and they climbed up near like the ridge of what they were intending to ski and stopped just short of it, began a transition, and that's when the avalanche occurred? Yeah,
they'd been skiing that day. They had done some runs prior to that fatal incident on that slope, not on that exact location, but kind of in the similar area. They had gone up for one last lap. It was kind of in the afternoon, and got up to below a ridge line. It was kind of just a little convex pocket. And well, I tell you, Dave, it really, I guess it was just eye-opening. I could see you and I there. It was not anything gnarly. They weren't getting crazy. It didn't seem like an unreasonable decision based on the danger and just everything else that they were seeing. So at any rate, they got up to this little convexity below the ridge line. We're getting ready to transition. It kind of seemed like they were probably stomping out a platform to strip their skins or something like that, and triggered the avalanche. Brooke, who passed, he got hung up on a tree probably within 10 or 15 feet of their transition location and buried. And then the other fellow was swept down through the tree, not very far. It wasn't a big avalanche at all, and was partially buried, was able to dig himself out, started to got his beacon out and was going to switch over to search, and was having had some issues with it. Ultimately discovered that the battery compartment was corroded. And so you can kind of get real on again, off again type, on the display, the function. So he The beacon ended up not working for him. He dug at the most likely burial spot. I kind of think they went down together, and he might have even seen Brooke get hung up on the tree or something, or just thought maybe that was where he was at. Started digging, ran in, found a ski pole, and that led down to Brooke. It had been about a half an hour, and he had passed by then. Their skins, or Brooke's skins, were still on his skis, and there was an eye opener for sure. Like, it could have been us a million times over in that same situation.
In a couple of things, like, what were the basic snow conditions at that time?
Yeah, it was cold and windy. We had a little bit of fresh snow. Oh, I don't remember exactly how much, but there had been some fresh snow in the previous days, but then the sun was out and it kind of settled a bit. But we had some cold temps and some wind, and so I think it was kind of a little wind-loaded pocket in there. Another cohort went over there and did some further digging and thought maybe he could find some persistent wheat grains down in the snowpack there, but it was never, really fully confirmed or whatever. But yeah, I think it was kind of cold and windy and loaded on that little leeward pocket there, a couple feet deep.
Looking at the site, why do you think they elected to stop where they did and maybe not continuing to the top of the slope or someplace where they wouldn't have transitioned, within the avalanche terrain?
It got pretty steep. So right at the apex of the ridge, it kind of ramped up a good bit, and perhaps it was windy that day, and so they were just staying in the leeward area and a little more protection. I mean, they weren't far from the top. That's probably why, I'm guessing.
Yeah, that's essentially what it looks like from the photos as well. Just thinking, like, obviously, whenever we look at an accident like this, we're comfortable in our homes with the benefit of hindsight and all of that. But one of the complicating factors for this one is that both of them got caught, and presumably, both of them got caught because they transitioned in that spot. And like you said, there's certainly times where terrain kind of forces you to do something like that. And I have been in similar situations many times. But that was just one of the thoughts I had when looking at it in terms of thinking about what I could learn from that and take away, is that, might there have been a way to not have both people caught in the slide?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of brings up the idea of safety zones and really being honest with ourselves about safety zones. You think, oh yeah, we're safe, but I mean, so if your safety zone is a group of trees, for crying out loud, make sure you can grab those trees, make sure you're right on those trees, if a slide were to occur, and not just kind of near them or something like that. Or I don't know, whatever your safety zone is, really being honest with yourself and the group that it's safe.
Another takeaway from me, like, reading about this accident, was, as you mentioned, the size, and that it was small. It's easy to be scared of enormous avalanches, and I think it's sometimes hard to be humble enough to recognize that we're small, puny, soft animals that are, relatively easily killed by a small slide.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a big time eye opener. And then the beacon thing too, I'm totally guilty of, like, click on, like, oh, there's a little corrosion in there. Oh, it'll be fine. Like, I'll get it next time. I'm going to stop doing that. Like, it's not okay. Like, your stuff has to be dialed and should be dialed. We preach it every year. Take your batteries out of your beacon, clean those terminals off, do your function check. Making sure you're staying up on top of that stuff is super important. And, these type of things happen when you least expect it. And fight like you train like you fight. You got to be ready to roll when the time hits, and you never know when that's going to be. And so you got to play like it's the last time every time. And minutes can make a difference.
Absolutely. Thanks for revisiting that. I know that it's hard and, emotionally challenging to visit a site like that. you know, do you have any like personal just thoughts on what it's like for you to visit that, you know, in official capacity and everything?
You know, just I think in the moment, there's really not a whole lot of room for emotion. You know, we go out there to do a job, to do a recovery, staying strong for the family and friends, and especially, you know, tactically doing the recovery. It's keep it business-like, but then it's after the fact. You know, I've since met up. He was a friend. I've done a hut trip with him, and met up with the sister and family. Mom and dad went up there, and that was when my eyes got pretty watery and it all kind of hits home. But I think in the moment, you know, a lot of first responders, EMTs, whatever, rescue specialists, in the moment, it's business time, but after the fact is when it all kind of soaks in. And it definitely changed my perspective on what it means to be ready and what it means to be prepared to go out in the backcountry and ski safely. And if you are going to push it, what that looks like, and having your rescue game dialed. There's no time, you know, like in what are they, To Hell in a Heartbeat. There's no time for thinking. There's only time for action, and that is so true.
Thanks for sharing that, and you know, thanks for doing that, and you know, as I think that you do, like take care of yourself and let yourself decompress. I've been impressed with the you know, discussion of the trauma and, you know, PTSD stuff that it can impact responders like yourself and others in these things, and it's real. I mean, I've certainly been on the edge of that, and I know that, so it's an important part of the conversation and something to consider.
Yeah.
Transitioning a bit, like, so we started last season. Obviously, we already mentioned the transition from sort of winter to a summer pretty abruptly. Let's maybe go to like some of that transition. Like Shasta has lahars. What the hell is that?
Lahar, yeah, that's a fancy term for mud flow. And so, yeah, we had an active summer on Shasta with the mud flows. So right around the end of that was June, the lava fire started. And I guess I'll clarify that the mud flows and the lava fire were not connected, but they happened kind of around the same time, and it was largely due to just the really warm temperatures. We had a spell of you know, warm nights and hot days, and no snow on the mountain, no snow on the glaciers. You know, we rely on a lot of that winter snowpack to insulate the glaciers. It's like a big blanket for them, and it really helps kind of moderate and regulate rainfall. And so we didn't have any of that. And so I guess, well, the lava fire got started late June. That lasted for over a month. I ended up working about 21 days on that fire as the lead resource advisor, just helping crews kind of with local mountain knowledge and that type of thing, and resource protection on and around the mountain. And then, you know, I don't know when our first real debris flow happened. I'd have to look back, but
I kind of think, I think I was reading that it hit Brewer like the 1st of August, maybe. Like Brewer was impacted by something around August 1st, I believe.
Yeah, there was kind of a no-name creek that impacted Brewer and actually trapped a handful of climbers at the trailhead. And for a moment, they were able to finagle around and get out of there. They were fine, but that was kind of a no-name creek. And then there was Inconstance Creek. I don't know. Can you see my mouse at all?
Nope.
No. Yeah. Well, anyways, Inconstance Creek is on the north side of the mountain. Whitney Creek is on the west side of the mountain. Ash Creek, Mud Creek, they all sent down slugs of debris. Whitney Creek actually crossed 97 at one point. And it was just during that period of really warm temps, and we got a few rain events, and the rain, you know, hits those glaciers and just sheets off immediately. When there's snow on the glaciers, the rain on snow, it kind of percolates down slowly and sort of moderates the flow. But when it's ice, it just sheets off and comes down the hill quite quickly. So at any rate, it's despite what it all means, it's kind of exciting. The mud flows are extremely powerful, and really cool to see. And
for those for folks not super familiar with Shasta, like, can you help people understand how far from like the steep part of Shasta that we see behind you, like these were impacting Brewer, or the water supply area for McLeod, or some of these impacts were like down in the forest, like way below the mountain?
Yeah, and it's kind of that classic alluvial fan type process where, up at 11, 12, 13,000 feet, you've got these glaciers and these drainages, and probably 8-10 miles down the hill is where these things will start to dissipate and fan out, and it will kind of sort the sediments by size. So up higher on the mountain, you get the larger boulders that will come to rest, and as you work your way down, you get smaller and smaller boulders, and by the time you get down onto low angle terrain, it's sediments and just mud and silt. And it's kind of interesting because a lot of these channels have been established and been flowing for a long time. I've worked here 20 years now, and like Mud Creek's always been in Mud Creek, and Ash Creek's always been in Ash Creek. They're filled in now. They're filled in with mud and debris, and there's no way in hell that you're going to dig those out with an excavator. It's an impossible task. So these original drainage channels are filled up, and it's the six-headed monster. They're just firing off every direction, impacting roads. The 31 road's closed. Pilgrim Creek Road is closed. 97 was closed for a bit. So it's Mother Nature is doing her thing. Yeah, it's crazy.
It is so impressive. I mean, it's one of the things that's awesome about Shasta for California, is this just massive cascade volcano, and obviously there's mudslides in every place where there's a hill and water and loose terrain or loose soil or something, but like the scale of it on Shasta is basically next level for these parts.
Yeah, there's some cool videos, and on our Instagram, Shasta Avalanche, there's one video of Coquette Falls during one of the flows, and it's impressive. I mean, huge Volkswagen-sized boulders cascading over the falls, and it's pretty wild.
Nuts. I mean, hopefully, like the season is better than last season, and we have more snow on the mountain as we head into spring 2022, and we have a lot less of that. Those, I mean, for me, I my first selfish thing is like, recreational access in the spring time of the year, which is a huge deal for the economy, and lots of people want to go enjoy Shasta that time of the year. But, I mean, I read about McLeod having their water supply threatened. I mean, that's not funny. That's not like just me wanting to go play. That's people being able to survive. Yeah,
it's a big deal. Fortunately, I think their water is okay. I'm not totally certain on that, but and then most of the access on the mountain is still, all the main trailheads you can still access, and a few of the roads are compromised, but and nobody got hurt that we know of. So
good. Looking forward to 2021, 2022. What's new up there for us?
So for this season, a couple new things, and just a lot of the same old too. We got a new employee. Ryan Lazari is our new. He got hired in under a permanent 18-8 Forest Service GS6 position. So he started a couple weeks ago, and he's kind of cutting his teeth this fall, just sort of getting situated. And we've been doing some prep and some training with myself and Ryan, and then Aaron Beverly. Aaron Beverly's been with us for a handful of 4 or 5 years now, I guess. So we'll be doing 7-day-a-week forecast starting in December with Ryan. We've got our new website that will be implemented. So for everyone that's been used to the old stuff, we will be upgrading and joining many other avalanche centers, the Sierra included, with that shared platform. Sawtooth, there's a bunch of them on board with the new shared platform. So we'll be implementing that. That's some of the new stuff. Otherwise, it's a lot of the same 7-day week forecasts. As I mentioned, all our regular educational offerings with companion rescue, avalanche awareness every weekend, each month, or the first weekend of each month throughout the winter. Friends group is doing great. And yeah, and the structure and everything of what we do is the same. So we're just looking forward to some snow and hopefully a good winter. But yeah,
definitely. What's your prediction for? I mean, you said there might be some very bony, low angle wiggling or skinning or cross country skiing shortly. What's your guess for like a legit turn?
Oh man, legit turn. You know, sometimes we get these early season storms and then it melts. But if it sticks around, some legit turns. It's October 20th. Dang, I don't know. I guess what's a legit turn? No rocks.
No.
Maybe by Halloween, or if it doesn't melt off, I'd say no, probably not by Halloween, but by late November, Thanksgiving, perhaps. Yeah, we'll see.
We will not hold you to this. I was just trying to get you on record.
Yeah. Get out your little Pinner cross country skis. There's definitely some schnoodling that be done on some roads up there.
Yep.
Sure. Yeah.
I think I went to Shasta for 10 years before I like explored the below tree line playing there, and obviously, and it's fun. There's good stuff there. I always, you get distracted by what you see from the highway and you want to go up, but there's, if you get creative, there's some fun stuff in the trees as well.
Yeah, a lot of the best snow quality is down below tree line, especially on those windy storms. It can be kind of nasty above tree line, but near and below, it sort of sifts in like powdered sugar-ish, and can be pretty fun. Yeah.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to getting up there this year and enjoying some of that. Nick, thank you so much once again for joining us and giving us an update on how Shasta is doing.
Yeah, thank you, Dave. And we'll hope that everyone has a great winter. And just one last note, I guess, just encouraging responsible recreation. This is kind of something I've been thinking about a lot lately, with skiing and snowmobiling and all types of winter recreation becoming increasingly popular, people visiting other areas. Just want to remind folks to be conscious and courteous and kind and respectful of other people's areas and your own area, picking up after yourself, being respectful of other users. We're all out there just trying to get some fresh air and wind in our face and exercise and whatnot. And so as you go out into your own area and as you visit others, just keep in mind that idea of responsible recreation and what that means, and keeping it clean and keeping it pro.
Sounds good. I certainly have noticed that certainly Bunny in the winter gets a lot more. It's gotten more crowded over the last decade, and but mostly I see people doing their best to get along with everybody and make space and keep it nice. And it's certainly, we all have to do it because there's a lot of use in a small area.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much again, Nick.
All right. Thank you, Dave. Pleasure as always.